Rohit Arya had the kind of presence that made people instantly trust him. He spoke softly, walked quietly, and taught with a calmness that felt rare in a chaotic city like Mumbai. Students admired him, colleagues respected him, and the college principal often referred to him as one of the most balanced minds on campus. No one knew that inside this balanced man lived a storm so violent that one day it would tear apart everything he had ever built. The beginning of that storm was Anika. She was bright, outspoken, effortlessly charming, the kind of girl who made the room tilt slightly when she entered. At first, her admiration for Rohit was innocent. She stayed back after lectures, asking questions about career paths, economics, life. Rohit answered them with teacherly warmth, believing it was simply mentorship. But slowly, the tone changed. Her questions became personal. Her compliments became lingering. Her eyes held a softness that Rohit had never received from anyone in years. Rohit, who had grown up loveless, who had never been told he mattered, felt his heart waking up like it had been asleep for decades. He tried to fight it. He reminded himself she was a student. He reminded himself he was older. But human weakness is strongest where the heart is emptiest. And Rohit Arya's heart was a desert desperately seeking rain. The first turning point came on a quiet evening when most students had left. Anika stood near his desk, pretending to look for a pen but clearly waiting for something more. "Sir, can I tell you something?" she whispered. He nodded, unaware that this moment would become the root of his destruction. She told him she felt uncomfortable around her boyfriend Kabir, that Kabir was controlling, sometimes threatening, and had private photos of her. Tears shimmered in her eyes, perfectly placed, perfectly timed. Rohit felt something inside him ignite, a fierce protectiveness he had never felt before. He told her she wasn't alone. She smiled through her tears and touched his hand lightly. That single touch burned into him like a brand. From that moment, he stopped thinking like a teacher and began thinking like a man in love, dangerously, blindly, irrationally. Her pain became his mission. Her safety became his obsession. He didn't know she was lying. He didn't know she was manipulating. He didn't know he was being pulled like a puppet by someone who enjoyed being adored more than being honest. Days turned into nights of sleeplessness. Rohit began monitoring Kabir, following him, collecting information, convincing himself he was protecting Anika. But the truth was darker, he was crossing lines he once taught others never to cross. His moral compass twisted into something unrecognizable. The calm teacher who once solved problems with words now saw violence as a solution. He felt chosen, responsible, special, yet none of it was real. The final crack came when he overheard Anika laughing with her friends, mocking him, calling him easy to control. Those words shattered him more brutally than any betrayal. His love turned poisonous. His heartbreak turned feral. That night, drenched by Mumbai's rain, Rohit Arya made the final decision that transformed him from a gentle teacher into a man ready to commit a crime in the name of a love that never existed. The night of the incident felt strangely quiet for Mumbai, a city that never stops breathing. But inside Rohit Arya's mind, everything was loud: voices, memories, heartbreak, betrayal. Hours earlier he had stood in the rain, replaying Anika's mocking laughter, her lies, her touch, the way she had twisted his loneliness into a weapon against him. Something snapped inside him, something that was already weakened beyond repair. And from that shattered piece of him, a decision was born, dangerous, irreversible. Kabir was walking back home from a late-night practice when Rohit appeared from behind a parked van, his face half covered by a black mask. Kabir barely had time to react before Rohit's hand clamped over his mouth and a stun gun pressed against his neck. The jolt took Kabir down instantly. Rohit dragged him into his car, heart racing, mind spinning, convinced he was doing something noble, something righteous. He kept telling himself, "She used me, she used both of us. I need the truth." But the truth he was chasing no longer existed. Only obsession remained. He brought Kabir to an abandoned tutorial center where he once worked part-time. The building smelled of dust, damp walls, forgotten memories. Under the flickering tube lights, Kabir regained consciousness only to find his wrists tied to a metal chair and Rohit standing in front of him, breathing heavily. Fear swallowed Kabir's voice as he tried to understand what was happening. "Why were you blackmailing Anika?" Rohit demanded, his voice trembling but sharp. Kabir blinked in confusion, unable to process the accusation. "Sir, what are you talking about? I never." "Don't lie to me." Rohit slammed his fist against the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot through the empty classroom. The fragile calm that once defined him had dissolved into something wild and unpredictable. Kabir tried again, voice cracking. "Sir, Anika lies, she exaggerates. I swear I didn't do anything. She just enjoys the drama." But Rohit's mind wasn't listening. It was drowning. Every memory of Anika, her touch, her tears, her lies, kept pushing him deeper into a place where logic no longer lived. He felt betrayed by the girl he had loved and by the boy he believed had hurt her. Now both stood in his memory together, feeding his rage. A neighbor passing by heard noises coming from the abandoned building and called the police, thinking some goons were hiding there. Within minutes, Mumbai police received the report. Soon after, a patrol car spotted a light inside the building. Then another officer noticed a shadow moving near the windows. Something was wrong. At 11:42 p.m., police surrounded the structure. Rohit, hearing the sirens and seeing the lights outside, panicked. He grabbed Kabir by the collar and shouted, "Tell them what you did. Tell them you hurt her." His eyes were red, part exhaustion, part madness. Kabir cried, "Sir, please, I didn't hurt anyone. She lied to you." That was the moment everything collapsed. Rohit's trembling hand reached for the gun he had brought, telling himself it was only for protection. But heartbreak and fear make men unpredictable. The trembling turned into a violent motion. The gun fired. Kabir screamed. Blood spread across his shirt. Outside, police officers drew their weapons, preparing for the worst as Rohit's voice echoed through the broken windows. "She used us both. I'm ending this tonight." The gunshot tore through the silence like a scream no one could swallow. For a second, everything inside the abandoned tutorial center froze, the dust, the flickering tube light, even Rohit himself. Kabir slumped sideways in the chair, gasping, blood spreading across his side in a slow, horrifying bloom. It wasn't a fatal shot, but the sight of blood sent shockwaves through Rohit's already fractured mind. His hands shook violently. His breathing turned shallow. He stared at the gun as if it belonged to someone else. Outside, the police heard the shot and moved instantly. They kicked down the rusted door, shouting warnings, flashlights slicing through the darkness. Rohit stumbled backward, terrified, desperate, clutching the gun like it was the last thing that kept him alive. Officers spread out, taking positions, commanding him to drop the weapon. But Rohit wasn't seeing them. He was seeing Anika. Her smile. Her tears. The lies that wrapped around his neck like chains he willingly accepted. Kabir's weak voice broke the tension. "Sir, please, stop," he writhed in pain, eyes pleading, not for his life, but for Rohit to return to himself. But Rohit had already crossed every line. The man who once solved disputes with gentle reasoning had vanished into a version shaped by betrayal and loneliness. Police slowly advanced, weapons pointed, negotiating, warning him to stand down. Rohit raised his hands halfway, gun still between his fingers, trembling like a leaf trapped in a storm. His voice cracked when he spoke. "I loved her. I would have died for her, but she made a fool out of me. She lied to both of us." His face crumpled, not with rage now, but with a sorrow so deep it looked older than him. One of the officers tried to speak calmly. "Rohit, put the gun down. No one else needs to get hurt." But Rohit laughed, a broken, hollow sound. "Hurt? I've been hurting my whole life. Love was supposed to save me, instead it destroyed me." Another officer edged closer. Rohit flinched and pointed the gun at himself for a moment, then toward the wall, then dropped it suddenly as his knees gave out. Officers seized him swiftly, pinning him down, handcuffing him. He didn't resist. He didn't scream. He just stared blankly at the concrete floor, tears slipping silently across his face. Kabir was rushed to the hospital, sirens wailing across the empty night. Rohit was escorted outside, expression empty, body limp, as if he had aged 20 years in the last 2 hours. Cameras flashed. Neighbors whispered. The media arrived like vultures circling tragedy. But Rohit didn't look at any of them. He kept whispering a single name under his breath, Anika, like a prayer that had long turned into a curse. When the interrogation began later, the truth unfolded piece by piece. Anika's manipulation, her fabricated threats, her need for attention, the emotional trap she created, everything surfaced. Dhruv Rathee's coverage of the case would later reveal how easily a vulnerable mind can be shattered by the wrong kind of love. The story spread across social media like wildfire, painted with shock, pity, anger. And in his cold prison cell that night, Rohit finally realized the most painful truth: he was never a criminal by nature. He became one in the name of a love that was never real. A love that used him. A love that led him to destroy everything, including himself. Crime does not always begin with evil. Sometimes, it begins with a broken heart in a city too busy to see the cracks. Rohit Arya became a criminal, not because he wanted to, but because he believed love could save him, when in reality, it was the very thing that ruined him.